Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the program. You're watching our mid-morning edition of Arirang News on this Friday, July 17th, coming to you live from Seoul. I'm Shin Se-min. And before we begin, these are the stories we're following at the top of the hour. South Korea's trade minister, running for the top job at the WTO, says her vision for the organization centers on rebuilding trust. Taking aim at Japan, which is against a South Korean candidate running, Yoo Myung-hee says she's confident Tokyo will consider credentials in choosing the next WTO chief. Is another summit between North Korea's Kim Jong-un and President Trump on the horizon? Trump's top diplomat says he hopes one happens this year. And an expert says if the right conditions are met, the two leaders might meet this fall in Asia. Russian spies at it again. The intel agencies of the U.S., Canada, and UK accuse the Kremlin of being behind a massive and ongoing cyber hack to try to steal information from the West's COVID-19 vaccine research projects. With a rising number of COVID-19 infections worldwide, the number of imported cases here in South Korea has also been on the rise as well. On Thursday alone, 19 crewmen on a Russian ship docked in the southeastern port city of Busan tested positive for the virus, raising concerns over a potential new cluster infections in that region. Our Lee Seung-jae leading us off.
While South Korea has been able to slow down new local infections of COVID-19, imported cases remain on a concerning incline.
As the spread of infections continue globally, we're seeing more than 230,000 COVID-19 infections a day, and that's the highest so far.
Due to the rising number of infections worldwide, there has been an uptick in the number of imported cases in South Korea. This includes a number of new cases in the southeastern port city of Busan. Health authorities are keeping close tabs on a Russian-flagged vessel that reported 17 infected crewmen, as well as 2 other Russians on 2 separate ships. All 19 have been moved to a local hospital for treatment. Over the past month, 39 crewmen have been infected, with health authorities now conducting tests on all crew members on the Russian ships that would have had a lot of contact with local workers. Russia currently has the 4th most COVID-19 cases in the world at over 752,000. With nearly half of all foreign ships docking in Busan coming from Russia, it's fueling concerns about further imported cases. South Korea has been conducting on-board quarantine checks of foreign ships arriving from high-risk nations after assessing the degree of risk. However, for Russian ships, health authorities say they will conduct tests on all crew members. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The 27-member European Union is urging all its nations to gradually lift travel restrictions for residents of 13 countries, that including South Korea, because of what it sees as the improved COVID-19 conditions in those regions. Under the new guidelines, residents of South Korea, Algeria, Australia, Canada, Georgia, Japan, Morocco, New Zealand, Rwanda, Thailand, Tunisia, Uruguay, and China can enter the EU freely. Chinese visitors, however, are only welcome if Beijing grants the same rights to EU citizens. The European Union is committed to gradually lowering the bars to its external borders that have been shut since mid-March. The member states have been updating the list every 2 weeks, giving green lights to more countries to travel the region. Governments can freely limit or expand the list, as the deal is a non-binding coordination. The European Central Bank is maintaining its emergency coronavirus-related bond buying program at the current level and also keeping its interest rates unchanged. In a statement on Thursday, the ECB said the interest rate will remain at 0% and the marginal lending facility and deposit facility will stay at 0.25% and 0.5% respectively. It expects to maintain or lower the interest rates until it sees an inflation outlook of 2%. And the ECB President Christine Lagarde said early signs of a recovery are uneven and the outlook is, quote, highly uncertain. The UK's National Cybersecurity Centre claims that Russian spies are targeting organizations trying to develop a COVID-19 vaccine. It also added that hackers are, quote, almost certainly part of Russian intelligence services. The warning on Thursday was published by an international group of security services from the US, Canada, and UK, with one expert saying that it was plausible Russian spies were involved. Now, the report did not specify which organizations had been targeted or whether anything had been stolen so far, but it did confirm that research was not hindered. The Kremlin, however, denied the claims, saying Russia had nothing to do with it. South Korea's Trade Minister Yoo Myung-hee, who is running against 7 other candidates to become the next leader of the World Trade Organization, faces opposition from Japan. But she stressed during her candidacy speech on Thursday in Geneva that Tokyo must focus on her qualifications as a candidate, not the diplomatic row between the two Asian neighbors. Our Kim Hyo-sun with the details.
South Korea's Trade Minister Yoo Myung-hee, who is running for the next Director General of the WTO, is insisting that Japan will look at her credentials as a candidate rather than the ongoing bilateral dispute between Seoul and Tokyo.
I'm confident that Japan will also look at the candidates. When they actually look at the candidates to Japan, what's almost important is the person's, the candidates' competency and capability to save and enhance the WTO and also to take WTO reform. So in that regard, I will reach out to Japanese colleagues and will present my vision for the WTO. And I'm confident they will also approach this issue rather than in the perspectives of, from the perspectives of the disputes, but from the perspectives of saving and promoting the multilateral trading system.
During her speech in Geneva, Minister Yoo also highlighted that she's capable of carrying out organizational reforms. Yoo, who is running against 7 other candidates, faces opposition from Japan, especially following diplomatic rows between the two countries, stemming from the South Korean Supreme Court's ruling that ordered Japanese firms to compensate the Korean victims of Japan's wartime forced labor. Asked about possible opposition from Beijing backed by fears that regional balance considerations could lead it to lose its Deputy Director General seat, Yoo expressed confidence that she had a great relationship with China while working at the South Korean embassy in Beijing for 3 years and working on the free trade agreement between the two Asian neighbors. Seoul's trade minister also underscored that her vision for the WTO centers on rebuilding trust in the multilateral trading system by making it, quote, more relevant, resilient, and responsive. Kim Hyo-sun, Arirang News.
U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo is going toe-to-toe with countries committing serious human rights violations. In an op-ed for the Washington Post on Thursday, Pompeo said, quote, freedom has always been at the center of the American political order. Citing President Trump, Pompeo added that the U.S. faces many mighty challenges from abroad, referring to China. However, he said Washington cannot confront China or other gross human rights violators without understanding the roots of America's foreign policy. Previously, Pompeo has said authoritarian regimes commit gross violations of human rights every day around the world, mentioning countries like Venezuela, Iran, Russia, China, and North Korea. And for the second day in a row, U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo has said that there could be a chance for a third summit between Pyongyang and Washington. And some experts also think that Kim and Trump could even meet before the U.S. elections in November. Our Chang Tae-hyun reports.
Could there be a third summit between the U.S. and North Korea? Harry Kazianis, senior director at the Center for the National Interest, said in an article that the Trump administration is considering new proposals for a breakthrough with North Korea. And he said it's possible that an agreement could be signed in a potential third summit this fall in an Asian capital. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo said that while another summit between the two countries is unlikely before the U.S. presidential election, there is still a small chance of it happening. He said that President Trump only wants to engage in a summit if there's a possibility of progress in achieving the outcomes set out in the first summit in Singapore. Trump and Kim have met 3 times since 2018. They saw each other in Singapore and made vague promises for a nuclear-free Korean peninsula. Some experts believe that North Korea will try to avoid serious talks with the U.S. because there's a pressure that the U.S. would want something in return. And North Korea would not want to make any commitments when the U.S. leadership could change. On the other hand, others say a Washington-North Korea summit is possible as President Trump might take unexpected steps to win more votes. Meanwhile, in Pyongyang, the sister of North Korea's leader, Kim Yo-jong, said in a statement last Friday that a summit between the two countries is unlikely to happen, but you never know. Chang Tae-hyun, Arirang News.
A Republican governor claims that U.S. President Donald Trump called South Koreans, quote, terrible people, adding that Trump doesn't like dealing with President Moon Jae-in. And that's according to Maryland Governor Larry Hogan, who bashed Trump's response to the COVID-19 pandemic on Thursday in an op-ed for the Washington Post. Hogan said that during a recent private dinner with the Republican Governors Association, Trump complained that he does not understand why the U.S. has been protecting South Koreans when they don't pay their fair share, referring to the defense sharing cost deal between the two countries. Hogan also added that President Moon was helpful indeed in arranging Maryland's purchase of 500,000 COVID-19 test kits from Seoul back in April. And that was when President Trump said it was the state's job, not the job of federal government, to secure diagnostic kits. And now to the latest on Twitter hacking spree. Hackers might have convinced a Twitter employee to hack the accounts hit by this week's massive Bitcoin scam. Vice's Motherboard reports that sources told them, quote, they used a rep that literally did all the work for the hackers. Another source told them that the hackers paid the Twitter insider to do the job. The hacked accounts, including numerous high-profile people like Barack Obama and Joe Biden, were taken over using an internal tool within the Twitter's network. Motherboard has also seen a screenshot showing the panel and the account of cryptocurrency exchange Binance, one of the hacked accounts. The FBI says it's investigating the matter, but it's still unclear as to who exactly was behind the scam. South Korea is marking its 72nd Constitution Day on this Friday, and to mark the occasion, the National Assembly is holding a ceremony at around 10 a.m. local time, which is about now, where Assembly Speaker Park Byung-sak will be delivering speech under the theme of National Assembly for the People and Tomorrow. Now, the event will also be attended by Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun, along with some 110 senior judiciary government officials and lawmakers. However, in light of the COVID-19, the event has been scaled down, omitting congratulatory performances, as well as making social distancing and face masks mandatory. South Korea's constitution was promulgated on this day in 1948 based on an open democracy, and it was last revised back in 1987 after decades of authoritarian rule.
Good morning. Grab your umbrella on your way out. We are expecting light to very heavy passing showers in the afternoon. In fact, here in the capital, we could receive up to 70 millimeters of downpours from lunchtime to this evening. And we could also see some thunder and lightning. But until the rain starts, most regions will be actually under sunny skies. And the highs will be similar to yesterday. Seoul, Daejeon, Daegu getting up to 30 degrees Celsius this afternoon. Chuncheon hotter at 32 degrees. But again, it could rain down pretty heavily during the day. Central regions will have a rain-free Saturday with warm daytime highs. Then a final band of monsoon rain starting from Saturday on Jeju and the south coast before spreading nationwide by Sunday. The monsoon rain stays with us through next week. Other than Wednesday, we'll need to keep an umbrella handy. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
And that's all the news we have at this hour, but keep it tuned to Arirang News as we'll be back with more of the day's headlines coming up in our later newscast at noon Korea time. Thanks for watching.